Duergar, also referred to as Grey Dwarves or Underdwarves, are a subterranean offshoot of the Dwarven race. They inhabit the depths of the Underdark, often establishing settlements near volcanic regions. The relationship with other Dwarven subraces parallels that of Drow with surface elves. Physically, Duergar resemble typical dwarves in their sturdy build, yet notable differences exist. Both male and female Duergar commonly sport bald heads, with females lacking facial hair growth. Many are thinner compared to their Dwarven counterparts. However, their most distinctive features include dull gray skin and hair, often accompanied by an impassive expression. Regular dwarves sometimes derogatorily describe them as having flat heads. Given that many Duergar found on the surface world are exiled criminals, they often bear facial and arm tattoos denoting their status as traitors among their own kind. Characterized as tyrannical, grim, industrious, and pessimistic, the lives of Grey Dwarves is marked by harshness and brutality. Rather than viewing their lack of joy as a flaw, they regard it as their greatest strength, a source of Duergar pride. Despite considering themselves as superior examples of dwarvish ideals compared to their weak kin, their way of life reflects a darker reflection of traditional dwarven values. While displaying admirable traits, such as determination and bravery, Duergar embody dwarven flaws to an extreme degree. They are prone to violence, hatred, sullenness, and isolation, alongside being characterized by greed, ingratitude, and deep cynicism towards others' intentions. Furthermore, they diligently harbor and nurture grudges, regardless of the initial offense. The moral shortcomings of Grey Dwarves can be traced back to three fundamental principles: insatiable greed, perpetual conflict, and the rejection of emotional connection. Unlike most dwarves who find fulfillment in their industrious endeavors, a Duergar's drive for productivity stems solely from a primal urge to amass wealth and possessions. The relentless pursuit of acquisition and ownership drives their work ethic, yet they lack the dwarven appreciation for craftsmanship and mastery of a craft. Duergar creations, while functional and enduring, lack artistic merit and warmth. Their utilitarian approach prioritizes quantity over quality, devoid of any aesthetic considerations. Beauty holds no value for them. Their focus is solely on amassing wealth and status. Yet even when their endeavors yield success, it fails to satisfy their insatiable desire for more. Each acquisition only serves to fuel their unending thirst for further accumulation. As a Duergar ascends in status and accumulates possessions, they recognize the necessity of increasing their strength to retain what they possess. Resorting to theft and waging war, they subscribe to the principle of might makes right. They deem the weak unworthy of possessing what rightfully belongs to the strong, showing little compassion for those unable to defend themselves. The lives and possessions of others hold little value to them, with envy directed towards those better off. The suffering of others provides a rare source of satisfaction for them. They delight in tormenting the vulnerable through more down-to-earth forms of cruelty, such as working them to exhaustion and inflicting petty abuse. While they indulge in violence and covet treasure, raiding dwarven strongholds brings them a particular joy. For Duergar, displaying weakness is considered a grave offense, whether on an individual or social level. They equate weakness with emotions like happiness or kindness, and have no tolerance for those lacking in ambition or cruelty. In contrast to regular dwarves, who prioritize strong familial bonds and clan legacy, Duergar invert these values, adhering to their rigid society out of necessity rather than genuine kinship. They hold no affection for their kin, and instead prioritize self-interest. Grey Dwarves harbor deep bitterness, convinced that they have been deprived of their rightful place in the world, betrayed not only by the other races, but also by their fellow dwarves, kin, and clan. Raised in an environment where trust is forbidden, they are ingrained with the belief that betrayal is an inevitable aspect of their fate, a prophecy they often fulfill themselves. While Duergar are assigned life partners, this is solely for the survival of the clan, as cooperation is necessary for life in the Underdark. The concept of leaving behind a legacy is disregarded, as individuality is abandoned in favor of fulfilling predetermined roles within their society. To Duergar, life is an endless cycle of harsh toil from birth to death, marked by ceaseless labor and drudgery. They are indoctrinated from a young age to expect nothing but this existence. Despite their material wealth and military achievements, they find no happiness or satisfaction. They are devoid of memories of happiness or true pride, continuing to toil and complain about their lives, existing as mere components in a machine, producing goods they don't care about, a life devoid of the joy and purpose found in the Dwarven tradition of creation. Despite their predominantly evil nature, Duergar exhibit a Dwarven trait of minding their own business, as long as others do not possess something they desire. While most tend towards evil or neutrality, few rare individuals strive for goodness among their kind. They possess adaptations that make them well suited for underground life, surpassing other dwarves in certain respects. Unlike their kin, they have the ability to see clearly in the deepest darkness, eliminating a common challenge faced by other dwarves. They are immune to various techniques employed by mind flayers for control, including paralysis, phantasms, certain alchemical poisons, and specific types of illusions. Displaying cunning and stealth, Duergar excel in setting ambushes and evading detection, unlike their honor-bound counterparts. Some possess natural abilities resembling the effects of enlarge and invisibility spells. However, like Drow, they are vulnerable to sunlight. Duergar Adventurers typically prioritize personal gain and often adopt the roles of fighters or rogues, relying on their combat skills to navigate the dangers of the Underdark. Due to their cruel nature, experienced Duergar Adventurers may advance to become assassins or blackguards. While generally perceived as cruel and malevolent, such traits are as much a product of their cultural upbringing as they are inherent psychological characteristics. The Wyrmskull Throne was a legendary artifact crafted from the skulls of 4 blue dragons slain by Tark Shanat around the year -12,000 by the Dale Reckoning in the Cloaker Wars. Believed to be forged by Dumathoin's hand, this throne originally resided in Bright Axe Hall, within the lair of the Blue Dragons. When Bright Axe Hall was abandoned during the Third Spider War, around -6,150, the dwarves took the throne with them. In 1360, a gang of pirates briefly recovered the Wyrmskull Throne in the Bay of Skulls near Hook Isle, only to lose it again. It resurfaced around 1370 in the possession of the aquatic elf tyrant Gantar Creoc. After an adventuring party took it from Gantar Creoc, they sold it to the Storm Giant Queen, Neri, for a considerable fortune. She then magically enlarged the throne and gifted it to her husband, a giant named Hecaton. Shanatar, also referred to as Deep Shanatar, was an underground kingdom of the Shield Dwarves. It was established around -10,800 when Tark Shanat led his followers west from Barrendon, overcoming the inhabitants of the Rift of Dal Nadar during the Cloaker Wars to create Alatoran. Following the Spawn Wars, Shanatar was divided into 2 parts: the subterranean region known as Deep Shanatar, which included 8 sub-kingdoms, and the above-ground region called High Shanatar. This kingdom was situated beneath the regions of Am, Tetir, Kalimshan, and the Lake of Steam, areas collectively known as the Lands of Intrigue. The First Great Age of Shanatar, spanning from around -10,800 to -8,137, commenced with the establishment of Shanatar after the Cloaker Wars. This period included the First and Second Spider Wars and concluded with the withdrawal of the Drow of Galandar from Alatoran at the end of the Second Spider War. The Second Great Age of Shanatar began after -8,137, marked by the alliance of the 8 kingdoms of Shanatar and their successful defense against the Drow of Galandar. Despite this alliance, tensions remained between the kingdoms. The dwarves sought the gods' guidance to determine who should ascend to the Wyrmskull Throne of Bright Axe Hall, and Dumathoin selected the king of Oltul Smarin. Dumathoin then became the patron deity of the Shield Dwarves. The age concluded with another invasion by the Drow, leading to another 30-year-long Third Spider War. The Third Great Age of Shanatar commenced around -6120, when the Emperor sent dwarves to the surface to establish new sub-kingdoms. This led to the creation of High Shanatar, which was later destroyed by the humans of Kalimshan around -2600. During this period, the kingdoms of Okran and Havdanar rose and fell, while Dalzun and Amarindar emerged. This age ended when nearly all of Deep Shanatar, except for Ool Kazar, was destroyed by the Duergar, who were once its inhabitants. Drackalore was one of the 8 sub-kingdoms within the Dwarven realm of Shanatar. Its ruins are located beneath the Colden Peaks in Tetir, with one access point through a tunnel starting in the dwarven ghost town of Renera. Rumors suggest that ghosts haunt the tunnels of Dracalor, but the real inhabitants are a group of Sculpts. These Sculpts had settled in the area long ago after escaping slavery in a drow city. While most Sculpts avoid visitors, some serve a doppelganger who had made a lair in the treasure vault of the ruined palace. Sculpts mastered the ancient dwarven mechanisms to deter intruders. Dracalor was once a prosperous kingdom, unique among the Dwarven settlements for its economy based on crafting and trade rather than mining. However, over time, greed and envy overtook the realm, particularly among the upper ruling class. Skulks are a highly timid and malevolent race of humanoids, with the ability to blend into their surroundings, similar to a chameleon. They survive on the fringes of society through theft and murder. They are typically the size of a normal human, completely hairless, with a physique resembling an elf, including graceful limbs, delicate facial features, and pink or blue eyes. Their skin is smooth yet tough, like leather. While their natural skin color is light gray, they can instantly change it to match their environment or to a flesh tone. They are capable of speaking Common, and about a fifth of them can speak other languages, typically that of elves or dwarves. In confrontations, they are prone to flee at the first sign of injury, or if they do not have a significant advantage. They move swiftly and silently, becoming still at any hint of danger, blending seamlessly into their environment. When mobile, they are extremely difficult to detect, with a high chance of being overlooked unless directly observed during their color change. They avoid direct combat unless they have no other choice, and prefer to attack by surprise, often from behind. They move without making any noise, making them adept at ambushes. When they manage to surprise their target, their attacks are particularly effective, causing significant damage. They typically use weapons like daggers or short swords. In forests or underground settings, they can move almost undetectably, making it very difficult for anyone to track them. They live in small, mobile groups and often set up camps in dense forests or underground hideouts. They conceal themselves during the day and emerge at night to raid nearby human or demi-human settlements. Their preferred tactic is to kill an entire family and then leisurely plunder their home. A typical Skulk hideout is a shallow cave with multiple entrances, usually located just outside or beneath a town. These entrances are cleverly concealed with branches and leaves, requiring a keen eye to discover. Inside, there are sleeping mats, and during the day, 1 to 3 Skulk children might be found there, usually unguarded. If one of the children is less than 2 years old, a Skulk female will be present, but will flee if the hideout is discovered and abandon the children. Skulks often aim to disrupt the societies they prey upon. Common strategy involves murdering a minor political official and planting false evidence implicating a local thieves guild or orc tribe. This misdirection allows the Skulks to continue their activities without immediate retribution. While most of them are prone to panic, occasionally a leader emerges. These leaders, making up a small percentage of their population, are demanding and cruel, possessing enhanced abilities and speaking additional languages. Skulk leaders are adept at disguise and often pose as half-elves or humans to infiltrate and scout a town before leading an attack. Regular Skulks will follow a leader's commands, as long as they aren't too risky. These leaders sometimes collaborate with other nefarious entities, such as doppelgangers or assassins' guilds. Skulks sustain themselves on whatever they find in their victims' pantries. In lean times, they resort to stealing livestock, often leaving a hole in the fence to make it seem like the animal escaped on its own. Besides food, Skulks take whatever catches their interest. Female Skulks often go for gold, jewelry, and fine fabrics, while males are more likely to carry off furniture to their camp. Though disputes over stolen items are common, outright infighting is rare. Instead, they prefer to steal from each other when the opportunity arises. They are hunted by all creatures that prey on humans and demi-humans. However, their camouflage ability makes them difficult targets in most circumstances. They are despised by intelligent beings, and any Skulk captured by a human or demi-human community faces the harshest possible punishment, usually death. Ool Kazar, known as the Mithril Kingdom, is an underground dwarven realm and one of the original 8 sub-kingdoms of Shanatar. It is renowned for its expertise in stone carving and engineering. By negative 1900, the term had evolved to refer to a sub-kingdom of Kalimshan. Within Ool Kazar, the Shanataran sub-kingdoms of Barakuir, Dracalor, Hlolarar, Oltul Smarin, and Zokir, the City of Orbs, were also located. As of 1371, Ool Kazar was predominantly inhabited by shield dwarfs, but also had communities of humans, rock gnomes, and deep gnomes. At its height, it was known to have a population of many shield dwarves, and was governed by a silver dragon named King Myth Barak the Clanless. He would remain motionless as a solid mithril statue on his throne for 75 out of every 100 years, during which the Regency Council of Ool Kazar administers the city. It's considered one of the best defended cities in the Underdark. In 1367, Tiamat captured King Myth Barak's astral form, and he was only freed in 1477. In his absence, the city was ruled perpetually by the regents. Corel Nor is one of the 8 subkingdoms of Shanatar. Situated beneath the Troll Mountain, which forms part of the northern border of Amn, Corel Nor is an intricate network of tunnels and caverns at the boundary of the Upper Dark and Middle Dark. Numerous passages connect the kingdom to the surface. Once a kingdom of shield dwarves, the ruins of Corel Nor are now home to a nation of trolls and a small number of Darrow who occupy 5 of the former dwarven cities. This realm of trolls, called the Everlasting Kingdom of Stamheim, is ruled by Ursamog the Unlikable as of 1372. The culture and language of giants are prominent in the Everlasting Kingdom. The ruler claims both the former realms and the peaks and valleys of the mountains above. He has successfully defended it from various invasions and raids. The Darrow living here are led by Kirsch Brokenhorn, a Darrow sorcerer. They have an alliance with the trolls of Stamheim, agreeing to help defend and expand it in exchange for assistance in fighting mind flayers. Corel Nor was once a vibrant kingdom. Established in the distant past, it was renowned for its cities, which featured exquisite stonework. Their craftsmanship was so exceptional that much of it remained intact even long after the kingdom's fall. The legacy of Corel Nor lives on through several notable examples of fine stonework, such as the axe and star bridges in eastern Amn, and the towering Wailing Dwarf, a massive carving on Mount Batur in the Troll Mountains. The dwarves of Corel Nor frequently defended their territory, especially after the Mindstalker Wars. Much of their defensive efforts focused on protecting their surface holdings from attacks by giants and trolls. At its inception, the dwarves of Corel Nor worshipped Dinkarazan, a demigod of the Darrow. Over time, however, they largely abandoned this worship in favor of the Morden Saman, the dwarven pantheon. The Darrow residing in Corel Nor, as of 1372, are fervent worshippers of Dinkarazan. Torglor lies beneath the Snowflake Mountains, which mark the boundary between the surface realms of Amn and Tethir. It is the deepest of the 8 kingdoms, located in the Middle Dark, with only a few passages connecting it to the surface. Originally a kingdom of shield dwarfs, by the 1300s, the ruins of Torglor had become an encampment known as Gacharop. This encampment housed a large contingent of Githyanki, led by a powerful mage wielding a vorpal sword made from silver. These warriors from the astral plane, along with their allies, established extensive fortifications in the area. From these fortified caverns, the Githyanki wage a war against the mind flayers of Orendol. The dwarves who once lived in Torglor had engaged in extensive battles with the mind flayers, gaining a unique knowledge of crafting specialized equipment for fighting the Illithids. Much of this equipment was so well made that it remained functional even after centuries, and was used by some of the Githyanki. Oltul Smarin is located beneath the eastern Marching Mountains in Kalin Shan and the Forest of Nir. This former subkingdom features a ruling cavern, a large grotto situated beneath Mount Sarangard, along with several tunnels. After the fall of Old Shanatar, Oltul Smarin was abandoned by the dwarves. By 1372, various non-dwarf races had taken over Oltul Smarin's tunnels and frequently fought for additional territory. The most successful in these conflicts were the Drow, followers of the deity Beirun. These Drow, having escaped religious persecution by the Lolthites, established themselves in the Vault of Cloaked Midnight, a cathedral city. The city's temple occupies about half the ruling cavern, and the Drow use the former dwarven clan holds for protection. Zotharin lies beneath the surface realm of Amn, spanning 2 vast caverns connected by a network of tunnels. The northern half of the kingdom is situated under the Cloud Peaks, while the southern half extends below the Small Teeth Mountains. The southern parts, located under the volcanoes known as Kossuth's Eyes, are filled with lava tubes and veins of magma, deep within which exists a gate to the elemental plane of fire. The ruling shield dwarves of Zotharin belong to Clan Azurkin, which has some Azur ancestry. Other significant clans in the kingdom include Clan Arjatun and Clan Blackbanner. Zotharin is known for producing some of the greatest giant slayers in history. The northern part is also notable for its scholars, considered some of the finest minds in Shanatar. Due to their affinity for fire and heat, Clan Azarkin resides in the southern part of the kingdom. As of 1372, the northern part of the ruined kingdom is home to several tribes of Fomorians, while the southern caverns are inhabited by an aggressive tribe of Tinkali from Mastika. This Tinkali tribe established a realm called Waksop Tuba within the tunnels and caverns of southern Zotharan. Scattered throughout the extensive networks of caves and tunnels are small communities of giants and trolls. The southern area is known to be inhabited by fire elementals and salamanders, with reports suggesting that an Afridi also resides there. Barakuir, known as the Iron Kingdom, was part of the Dwarven realm of Shanatar and dominated by the shield dwarf clan Duergar, whose inhabitants eventually transformed into the Grey Dwarves. The kingdom venerated Laudiguer and was ruled by a priest king known as the Iron Shield. Barakuir had intense rivalries with the neighboring sub-kingdoms of Drachalor and Oltul Smarin, which escalated into open conflict during the Spawn Wars around -9000. Barraquer pledged allegiance to the Wyrmskull Throne of Shanatar and participated in the Second Spider War from -8145 to -8137. At the war's conclusion, Barraquer believed its king deserved to rule all of Shanatar. When this did not occur, its inhabitants grew bitter and distanced themselves from the other kingdoms. While many clans originally resided in Barraquer, the increasingly tyrannical rule of Clan Duergar led the other clans to flee. Around -8100, during the Mindstalker Wars between Shanatar and the Elithids of Orendal, Barraquer became isolated from the rest of Shanatar, cutting off reinforcements. It was eventually conquered by the Elithids, and its inhabitants were enslaved. Over the millennia, the people of Barakuir evolved into the Grey Dwarves, a distinctive dwarven race. Around -4000, the Duergar of Barakuir rebelled against their slavers and gained their freedom. Following their liberation, the dwarves established new subterranean holdings in the North Underdark, beneath the Orison Mountains, and also under the Great Glacier. Hlolarar was one of the 8 sub-kingdoms of the Dwarven realm of Shanatar, and was the final kingdom founded by them. Located beneath the Clovis Fields in Tethir, Hlolarar was situated roughly in the middle of deep Shanatar. Most of its inhabitants lived in a single massive cavern that housed a large shallow lake. Hlolarar was unique in that the members of nearly every clan of Shanatar resided there, building their homes in a large ring along the cavern walls. The kingdom welcomed immigrants and new ideas, leading to a rapid population growth. Many dwarves eventually moved to High Shanatar due to this expansion. After the Shield Dwarves abandoned it, the ruined kingdom was occupied by several tribes of hobgoblins from the surrounding Underdark, who engaged in constant internecine warfare for centuries. It was one of the breadbaskets of Shanatar and a prosperous trading hub, known for its abundant fields of golden kelp and lush mushrooms. Hlolarar, like the rest of Shanatar, fell during the kin clashes in -1800. The invading Duergar used slash-and-burn tactics, devastating the realm's lush farm fields. By 1372, the fallen kingdom was known to be mainly inhabited by numerous tribes of goblinoids. After centuries of intertribal warfare, the hobgoblins united as a single nation under a king in -379. Since then, the population and military strength of the city have grown significantly. Although the tribes still do feud with each other, they occasionally unite to conduct massive raids on the service realms of Kalimshan and Tethir. Throughout their prolonged captivity, lasting for generations, the Mind Flayers subjected the Grey Dwarves to numerous cruel and unconventional experiments. It was during this harrowing period of their history that the Duergar emerged as a distinct subrace. Eventually, they rebelled against their oppressors and secured their freedom. Upon gaining it, Duergar established a new homeland beneath the Great Glacier, founding the city of Gracklstugh in -3717. The Deep Kingdom, as it became known, swiftly expanded across the northern expanses of the Underdark, reaching its zenith in -2600. However, a conflict with the Quaggoths initiated a gradual decline, with the Duergar battling both the remnants of the Quaggoth nation of Orson Danthar and enduring assaults from Drow forces for centuries to come. Further south, beneath central Faerun, the Duergar established Dune Smarin beneath the Orison Mountains, eventually extending their influence into the caverns beneath Termish and the Dragon Coast. Dune Smarin reached the pinnacle of its power in -1800, when Queen Duera defeated a coalition of Drow from the Undreath and Mind Flayers from Orendal, reclaiming Deep Shanatar and Alatoran. However, following this achievement, the Duergar entered a period of decline, only to rise to prominence again after the Time of Troubles, albeit being locked into a protracted and grueling conflict with the Dwarven Army of Gold. The Duergar are commonly known to ferment fire lichen to produce alcoholic beverages, resulting in a spicy and fiery drink. They communicate predominantly in Duergan, a dialect of Dwarven derived from Shield Dwarf speech, heavily influenced by Mind Flayer and Drow terminology found in Undercommon. Most are also proficient in Undercommon. Additionally, they also tend to learn the languages of their adversaries, such as Draconic, Drow, Giant, Goblin, or Orc. Some may also acquire Terran for trade with Earth Elementals, or Common for dealings on the surface. For companions, they favor creatures indigenous to the Underdark, including bats, spiders, osquips, and spitting crawlers. As for beasts of burden, they employ large lizards, or steeders. A spitting crawler is a lizard native to the Underdark, known for its ability to spit acid and cling to both vertical and upside-down surfaces. These lizards are slim and lithe, with frog-like toes on their feet that enable them to cling to walls and ceilings, allowing them to reach food in hard-to-access places in the Underdark. They typically come in shades of green to gray, with a lighter gray underbelly. Spitting crawlers can remain exceptionally still, blending into the rock when observed. When angry, they hiss loudly and mimic other creatures, such as human coughing or murmuring, to lead potential foes into traps. They can leap massive distances horizontally and vertically. If they fail to stick to a surface and fall, they can absorb the shock of the landing from a freefall. They can move across walls and ceilings in complete silence, using their stealth to sneak up on foes. In combat, they bite their enemies and spit green acidic streams with remarkable accuracy. This acid is potent enough to burn through metal, creating widening holes and potentially causing as much damage to armor as a rust monster might. If undiluted, the acid can completely reduce any metallic compound, such as a set of chainmail, to dust. The acid causes skin disfigurement and a persistent burning itch. These creatures are immune to being stunned or affected by charm, sleep, or hold. They often survive encounters with other subterranean creatures thanks to their immunity to spider and insect venoms, as well as known ooze attacks. They are omnivorous, commonly feasting on sleeping bats, centipedes, and other insects. They also consume lichens, oozes, small rodents, and are known to have a particular liking for strong-smelling cheese. In general, spitting crawlers avoid creatures larger than themselves and prefer to hide in fissures until the danger passes. Occasionally, they serve as familiars for wizards, particularly drow wizards. Over time, they become very close to their masters, even willing to fight to the death alongside them, or seek revenge if their master is harmed. They tolerate a wide range of temperatures, from hot environments to any place warmer than tundra. They enjoy sharing body heat with their masters, and often curl up around the back of their necks. Male drow particularly favor them as familiars due to their combat abilities. The bulbous toes of spitting crawlers are used as spell components in spells like Spider Climb, and their poisonous excretions can fill a canister with acid. Typically, only through a Find Familiar spell does a crawler come into contact with a humanoid. They are among the most prized familiars in the Underdark. Steeders are giant spiders that resemble their smaller counterparts in many ways. Their bodies are covered in fine fur that varies in color. They have 8 strong legs and large mandibles. Duergar cavalry often use a tactic where they ambush a target, charging in to smash it against a wall or push it over a cliff. Steeders instinctively use their mandibles to bite a target. Thanks to their powerful legs, they are excellent jumpers, capable of leaping considerable distances in any direction. They can also survive significant drops. While it was initially believed they lacked a venomous bite, later accounts have revealed that they do have one. They can replicate the effects of an invisibility spell, which also affects their Duergar rider. They walk on ceilings and walls, using a sticky substance secreted from the base of their legs. They are predatory and aggressive, even towards each other. They will immediately attempt to attack another Steeder. Because of this, they are kept in individual stalls, and blinders are used when more than one Steeder is part of a caravan or battle group. They can be trained to respond to both hand and verbal commands. They are domesticated by the Duergar and used as mounts. The larger females are employed in battle, while smaller males are used for transporting cargo. A Steeder can carry a substantial amount of cargo or equipment, but unlike other animals, they do not pull wagons. Duergar ride Steeders using specialized leather saddles connected to a system of prods and straps for control. Their eggs are highly sought after, with a single egg fetching a high price on the market. By the 1370s, the sale of Steeder eggs was allowed to non-Duergar races. Proper training is essential, and being a Steeder trainer is a recognized and noble profession among the Duergar. Experienced trainers can charge significant fees for their services. Many temples of Hlolarar have large stables for caring for and breeding Steeders. Females are larger and stronger than males. They tolerate each other only during mating, after which the female devours the male. Newborn Steeders reach maturity within about 6 months and are obligate carnivores. The Duergar selectively breed them from giant hunting spiders found in the Underdark, making them much more intelligent than their ancestors. In contrast to other dwarves, Duergar possess a robust magical tradition encompassing both divine and arcane practices. Their clerics, runecasters, runesmiths, and wizards enjoy high esteem for their expertise. Clerics are particularly common, seeking power and influence by serving the Duergar gods. They exhibit a preference for magically imbued items that enhance their combat abilities, protect against mental intrusions, or facilitate stealth. They specialize in crafting unique magic items tailored to their needs, such as absorbing shields, bolts of battering, and stone reaver axes. As devotees of Hlolarar, Duergar uphold a long-standing tradition of craftsmanship dating back to their rule over Barakuir. Duergar art often depicts scenes of warfare, emphasizing themes of blood and cruelty. Above all, Duergar prioritize practicality in their craft, specializing in the production of military saddles, thunderstones, poisons, and exceptionally effective forms of armor lubricant. Like their gold and shield dwarf counterparts, they favor weapons that double as versatile tools, such as hammers and picks. Thunderstones are small, throwable, grenade-like weapons imbued with thunder magic. A typical thunderstone is a fist-sized stone, chiseled to resemble a die, with every other side inscribed with magical symbols or runes. During the Spell Plague, and until the Second Sundering restored the world's magic, thunderstones were notably created using clay and filled with powerful alchemical reagents. When thrown against a hard surface, a thunderstone shatters on impact with a roaring thunderclap. The resulting sonic and concussive damage can deafen an unskilled user, and the blast resonation can be felt within the thrower's chest. Some inventive tinkerers and rogues use thunderstones to create highly potent and loud traps that can be heard from long distances away. The trap itself is of a simple design, a pile of magic stones suspended in a net, ready to drop once triggered. A typical thunderstone trap can fetch a high price of around 2,700 gold pieces. In 1375, thunderstones were used by Krynth's soldiers and Sharan Shadow adepts during the return of the Netherese flying city of Fulton Thar to Toril over the scorching sand of the Honored Desert. In the 1370s, thunderstones could also be found in a rhodoprosite bowl within the House of Pain, a temple to Loviatar within the depths of Undermountain. Hlolarar is the lawful evil deity worshipped by the Duergar and harbors a deep-seated resentment towards the rest of the Mordant Saman, stemming from his exile, which he claimed was voluntary. Known as the Exile, he promotes a doctrine of empowerment through the exploitation of slaves and protection through a rigorous military program, urging his followers to limit contact with other races to trade and slave raids. In appearance, Hlolarar manifests as a bald, gaunt Duergar, standing slightly taller, with a skin that changes color from gray to brown to blend in with his surroundings, as well as a perpetual frown on his face. As a ruler, Hlolarar exudes grimness and gloom, devoid of joy, adhering strictly to his lawful nature. While he exhibits tendencies toward evil, much of this is directed inward, stemming from bitterness over rejection and underappreciation. Despite his disdain for tradition, he himself is not a free thinker, but a harsh taskmaster who imposes intolerant discipline. He demands constant toil under harsh conditions from his followers, but rewards diligence with protection and teachings on crafting magical items. Hlolarar holds a disdainful view of the rest of the Dwarven pantheon, regarding them as lazy and bound to outdated conventions. Among the Dwarven pantheon, Hlolarar is best tolerated by Dugmaren and Sharandlar, while the rest hold him in deep scorn. Deep Duergar is believed to be Hlolagar's daughter and stands as his only real ally, although even she devises schemes against him. The Duergar's race's control over the trade of Steeders has earned him the enmity of Lolth, while he is known to have ancient disputes that persist with the demon prince known as Orcus. Though the Duergar revere Hlolarar, their devotion to their stern deity is not one of love. Rather, they stoically follow him, partly of the belief that only the strong deserve existence. Within their society, there exists no distinction between secular and religious authority. Thus, Hlolagar's clergy, known as the Tholdor, or those who endure, serve as the de facto rulers. They play a crucial role in maintaining unity and strength against the other denizens of the Underdark, with military service being an expected duty. Exiled from the Morden Saman, Hladagr's actions have sparked differing interpretations among the Dwarven subraces. While Gold and Shield Dwarves accuse him of heinous crimes, attributing his salvation from Moradin's wrath to Baranar Truesilver's intervention, Grey Dwarves argue that Hladagr's advocacy for innovative philosophy offended Moradin to the point of expulsion. In 1383, Hladagar and Deep Duergar met their demise, leading to the dispersal of their home plane, Hammergrim, into the astral plane. Despite this, many of their worshippers remain unaware of their god's fate, as Asmodeus has assumed the disguise of Hladagar, seeking to expand his followers. As a result, Duergar had begun forming pacts with devils, gaining infernal powers in the process. After the Second Sundering, Hladagar reappeared and once again received reverence from the Duergar, although the circumstances surrounding his return have remained shrouded in mystery. Deep Duergar, also simply known as Duergar, embodies the essence of conquest, expansion, and psionics among the Duergar, revered particularly by those dwarves adept in the enigmatic invisible art. With an imperialistic fervor, this axe-princess of conquest steadfastly champions the supremacy of psionics and the destined dominion of the Duergar throughout the Underdark. Duergar typically manifests as a stout, powerfully built female Duergar. Her hair is mostly shaved, save for a monk's tonsured cut and a tightly wound braid at the back of her scalp. To signify her favor, Duergar unveils small pools of fresh, undisturbed water and bestows greenstones, sapphires, and crown-like silver rings upon her followers. However, if angered, she is known to irrevocably diminish the intellect of those who incur her displeasure. Pompous and authoritarian, Duergar demands immediate obedience to her every whim. She denigrates arcane magic as inferior to psionic might, and regards the Duergar as a distinct race, with their ancestral ties to other dwarves being an inconsequential detail best forgotten. She remains steadfast in her conviction that ruling is her inherent right. However, Duergar doesn't derive satisfaction solely from possessing territory. Instead, she finds joy in pursuit. The Axe Princess constantly schemes and strategizes for her next conquest, showing no mercy to those who fail to meet her expectations, and sparing no effort for her own success. The avatars of Duergar possess the ability to cast spells from various spheres and wield all types of psionics. At will, she can invoke deflect psionics, while remaining impervious to mind-affecting abilities. Her mere presence instills fearlessness in nearby Duergar, even in the face of formidable threats like a dragon's aura. Duergar can only be injured by enchanted weapons, and upon death can assume a ghostly form akin to other dwarven gods. In this spectral state, she retains her magical abilities, but is only half as resilient. She can also project her influence as a crown-like aura of silver light, enhancing a creature's psionic abilities and providing a temporary defense against mental manipulation. The Axe Princess of Conquest wields a weapon known as the Mind Shatter, an enchanted battle axe capable of sapping the psionic strength from its targets upon impact and transferring it to its wielder. She's adorned in shimmering and intricate chainmail armor known as Everbright. Along with Hladagar, Duergar resides within the plain of Hammergrim, a colossal fortress characterized by its gray, windowless walls that are a mile thick. Within the expansive courtyard of Hammergrim lies Duergar's personal domain, the Citadel of Thought, where the agonized screams of Duergar who have offended her echo from the catacombs, tortured by her ember guards, spawned from the forges of Hammergrim. In addition to continually formulating military strategies, she is known to dispatch avatars to intervene in matters concerning the Duergar and other races. Sometimes this involves aiding in conflicts against psionic adversaries like Aboleths and Illithids, while other times it is to exploit opportunities for Duergar expansion that ruling authorities have failed to capitalize on. Throughout her existence as a divine being, Duergar has remained estranged from the Morden Saman, with no apparent desire to mend their relationship. She lacks any sense of camaraderie among the dwarven gods, though Sharan Blar has managed to establish a working relationship with her, despite disliking her principles, and the wandering god Dugmarin, while not a true adversary, is known to find Duergar's company challenging. Rumors suggest that she is the granddaughter of Moradin and Baranar, and the daughter of her superior and sole ally, Hladagar. Although often referred to as Hladagar's daughter, either in a literal sense or due to his role in elevating her from mortal to demigod status, the relationship between the two is marked by a profound lack of affinity and compassion. Duergar upholds Hladagar's tenets of ambition, greed, might, and stoicism for the Duergar, serving as his chief lieutenant and obediently respecting his authority. However, their alliance remains largely symbolic. Privately, the Axe Princess feels constrained by her patron, viewing her, quote, father as a figure whose bitterness and resentment have squandered countless opportunities to secure the Duergar legacy. While Laudiguer is consumed by feelings of rejection and unappreciation, Duergar remains indifferent to the distant heritage of the Duergar. She constantly schemes against Laudiguer, and rumors suggest she is on the brink of attempting to usurp his position as the primary deity of the Great Dwarves. Their list of adversaries includes the Darrow gods Darinka and Dinkarazan, the Holder deities Gzemed and the unnamed Great Mother, and the entire Drow pantheon. They contend with deep-dwelling gods like Blibdilpul of the Kuatoa, Ixendrin of the Ixan, and the abolithic Elder Evil Pasaithkis. Laugzed and Erdelen, deities of troglodytes and evil gnomes respectively, are also among their enemies, with Erdelen specifically tunneling beneath Hammergrim's ore-rich soil in search of sustenance. The Duergar gods face less malevolent opposition in Caladur and Smoothhands, the deity of the deep gnomes, Silofir, protector god of the Myconids, and Shevarash, the elfin god of vengeance. Orcus is another adversary of Duerra, as the Prince of Undead once diverted the worship of Duergar beneath the mines of Bloodstone. Particularly intense is the animosity between Duerra and Ilsensign, as the Queen of the Invisible Art had appropriated many of the psionic secrets and energies of the Great Basin. Similar to Laudiguer, Duerra receives near-exclusive veneration from the Duergar, with the other members of the Mordred Saman only acknowledged in name. Her followers primarily consist of Duergar who delve deeply into psionics, and the militant warriors among the Great Dwarves who reject Laudiguer's defensive approach, preferring conquest in the Underdark and a policy of dominance over cooperation with neighboring races. While a small number of surface dwellers seek the Queen's aid in understanding and concealing the invisible art, which is often met with fear and suspicion, few beyond the Underdark are familiar with Duerra or her followers. Even among hill and mountain dwarves, knowledge of her is scarce, although a select few skilled in psionics from various dwarf clans secretly serve her, constituting a small fraction of her followers. Duerra's devoted worshippers beneath the surface are known as Nor Thor, the dwarvish term roughly translating to those who seize enemy land. The majority of her clergy, around 97%, are known to be female, a composition that has remained unchanged since before the time of Troubles. Most in her clergy are lawful evil, although lawful neutrality is also accepted. Duerra's teachings emphasize the Duergar's inherent destiny to dominate the Underdark, seizing the very stone from which they originated, claiming the caverns they inhabit, and asserting control over the wealth and servants found within. Inspired by her legendary feats, her followers lead Duergar assaults against their most despised adversaries, the Dwarves and Mind Flayers, with the aim of eradicating such communities entirely. She expects her clergy to exhibit strong leadership qualities and employ cunning strategies in their relentless pursuit of absolute power. This includes training young Grey Dwarves in warfare and imparting survival skills for the Underdark. While the clergy of Laudiguer defend Duergar territories, senior Mind Axes lead elite strike teams comprised of Duergar warriors, Dueran priests, and junior Laudigueran followers on missions to explore, clear, and claim tunnel systems to expand their communities. Central to her faith is the belief in the inferiority of arcane magic. Though rare, wizards skilled in crafting magical items are usually respected in Duergar society, but Duergar's doctrine contradicts this notion. According to her followers, arcane magic is feeble, unreliable, and conspicuous when compared with psionic abilities or magic bestowed and stabilized by divine will, which the Duergar strongly adhere to. Those who rely on mundane magic are deemed vulnerable to domination or enslavement by the Duergar through psionics, with the ultimate vision being the submission of all to Duergar supremacy and the glorious mastery of the invisible art. As part of their training regimen for youths, emphasis is placed on developing their inherent psionic abilities. They also oversee control of the slave population, with axe princes and princesses monitoring the thoughts of both slaves and masters for any signs of disloyalty to be promptly eradicated. However, recent trends among the Duergar indicate a shift away from traditional slavery towards the utilization of psionically powered machinery. They engage in nightly prayers for spells. The clergy of Duerra observe 2 annual holy days, during which offerings are presented to her in the form of soil or stone from newly conquered territories' borders, the brains of psionically gifted individuals, or the shattered skulls of intelligent creatures. Duerra's legendary exploits from ancient times have become the stuff of myth, recounted as tales by elderly Duergar mind wardens. Prior to her ascent to divinity, Duerra was revered as the greatest queen of the Duergar, reigning as the empress over a vast subterranean empire with ambitions of expansion. Her realm and the focal point of her faith was the Underspires, an ancient city built upon giant stalactites in the Northdark, established millennia ago when the Duergar broke free from Mind Flayer enslavement. Under Duergar's rule spanning centuries, the Duergar Empire flourished, reaching the zenith of its power. Around -1850, with Duergar leading the charge, the formidable Duergar forces of the Underspires launched a series of offensives against their numerous adversaries. These included the Drow of Undrea and the Illithids of Orendal, the latter of whom had once enslaved and transformed the Duergar themselves around -8000. According to dubious accounts and legends, it was during one of these campaigns that Deep Duergar's forces overran the city of Orendal, subjugating the resident Mind Flayers who once held sway over them. Over the subsequent centuries, Duergar and her followers purportedly extracted the secrets and powers of psionics from the minds of their captive Illithids, appropriating the invisible art and imbuing it into their own bloodlines. Legend has it that her own psionic abilities were so immense that she enslaved an entire Illithid colony. Some skeptics cast doubt on the accuracy of this legend, notably the Mind Flayers themselves. According to their version of events, Duergar led a slave uprising, with the Duergar's psionic abilities allegedly being engineered by the Illithids themselves to create more efficient slaves. While the Illithids did indeed subject the Duergar to extensive modifications through generations of brutal breeding experiments, psychic surgeries, and physical alterations to mold them into a distinct subrace, the Duergar invasions of Orendal did in fact occur. Despite potential embellishments in the legend, Duergar did manage to steal a significant amount of energy of many psionic secrets from Ilsenside at some point. Around -1800, Duergar's forces redirected their simmering animosity towards the remnants of Deep Shanatar, Oltul Smarin, Hlolarar, and the caverns of Alatoran. In recognition of her numerous triumphs, Laudagor granted Duergar divine ascension, shortly before her subsequent exile from the Mordant Saman. Following Duergar's departure, the Underspires experienced a prolonged decline, fragmenting and contracting in her absence. Despite doubts about the veracity of her legends, Duergar is revered by the Duergar as the source of their psychic powers, which not only set the Great Dwarfs apart from their kin, but also enable them to withstand drow magic and Illithid psionics. The ancient queen is also honored for her unwavering ambition to expand Duergar dominion, and was hailed as a symbol of Duergar supremacy through conquest and enslavement. During the time of troubles in 1358, when the gods were compelled to manifest in avatar form on Toril, Duergar assumed the guise of the Queen Mother of Underspires as her mortal form. Her return heralded a new era of empire building, revitalizing the city from its long stagnation. The elite army she trained launched attacks on outlying settlements such as Ironfang and Undrea, bringing them to their highest level of readiness in centuries. The Empire extended its dominion to the Underdark tunnels beneath the Cloven Mountains, reaching the deepest mines of Tathar. However, following the conclusion of the Time of Troubles that same year, Duergar vanished into the southernmost regions of the Underdark, leaving the fate of her Queen Mother aspect unknown. The Queen Mother served as regent for her young son, Olorn Riddigour, who assumed the Underthrone upon her disappearance. But the Queen Mother and her son, along with his descendants, are the last remnants of the original Shanatar bloodline, albeit they are distantly related over many generations. King Olorn is very tall for a Duergar. The self-proclaimed War King possesses peculiar abilities, such as hurling heavily armored Duergar into walls with immense force using gusts of wind from his gestures. He also wields the Barraquer scepter, albeit only as his magic club, and seeks words of power to lay claim to the Wyrmskull Throne. He proclaims himself as Duergar's son, a claim subject to debate, and following his mother's departure, he launched a fervent military campaign to expand northward. Over the span of 12 years, his devout warriors launched assaults on the underlands of Dragonreach, held by the Drow and dotted with isolated Dwarven and Deep Gnome settlements. Despite swiftly crushing many enclaves and capturing at least one minor Drow city, their actual victories were sporadic. Concurrently, his armies clashed with the Mind Flayers of Orendal to the west, beneath the Shining Plains. However, despite their enthusiasm, the tangible successes of these rapid conquests were limited, and the burgeoning empire quickly amassed numerous rivals and adversaries, potentially rendering it vulnerable to a coordinated strike. In 1383, Moradin rallied other members of his pantheon to confront the forces of Hammergrim. While Gorm Gulfin and Hala Brightaxe perished in battle, Clangid and Silverbeard vanquished Duergar, while Moradin slew Laudagor. The divine realm of Hammergrim disappeared into the astral plane amidst the triumphant battle chants. Although seemingly absent from the following Second Sundering, she later returned. The Duergar are a rugged and distrustful race, who harbor suspicions that other races, whether from the Underdark or the surface world, harbor ill intentions towards them. Despite this inherent mistrust, They are often open to trade with external races, particularly those from the surface, driven by the pursuit of profit. Relations between Duergar and their occasional adversaries, the Drow and Deep Gnomes, are complex for this reason. However, the Duergar have no affection for their closest kin, the Shield Dwarves, whom they feel abandon them to the onslaught of the Mind Flayers. The Duergar have waged numerous wars against the Shield Dwarves, fueled by this deep-seated animosity. Due to their pessimistic outlook, Duergar rarely embark on adventures of their own volition, with most being exiles cast out from their society. Some resort to petty crime, branded and expelled from their subterranean cities, and are forced to seek refuge among other races. Their somber demeanor, however, makes it challenging for them to forge lasting friendships with others. Darzalstag, known as the City of Dark Dreams, is a powerful Duergar kingdom situated beneath the Sunrise Mountains in Rashomon during the late 14th century. Although the Duergar have not yet posed a threat to Rashomon by the Year of the Unsung Harp in 1371, the Rashomar remain cautious of the menacing Great Dwarves. With Drow occasionally being sighted in the Running Rocks, the Rashomar believe that the Underdark is connected beneath Rashomon, potentially allowing the Duergar to launch attacks anywhere they choose. The Hothrons hope to establish a trade agreement with the Duergar to acquire valuable iron and other metals. Deep Earth is a city and the surrounding area in the Underdark beneath the Galena Mountains in the Bloodstone Lands. Originally, it was settled by Deep Gnomes, and the surrounding caverns were home to some Duergar clans. The Duergar occasionally clash with the Gnomes to gain food, cattle, and sometimes slaves, although they had limited success. Eventually, a large Deep Gnome army decimated the Duergar territories, halting the raids. One night, a lone Duergar infiltrated Deep Earth and discovered a pool of mercury in an abandoned gnome mine, which was actually a gate to the abyss. Upon touching the liquid, he was possessed by the demon lord Orcus. Under Orcus's leadership, the Duergar seized control of Deep Earth. In 1357, Gareth Dragonsbane's party arrived in Deep Earth and fought against the Duergar and Orcus's minions. By 1359, the Gnomes had regained control of the city and collaborated with Orathair clan dwarves to exploit the Bloodstone mines. Drikhargunin is a Duergar city in the Underdark region of Faerun. Constructed around a natural rock chimney, the city features iron stairways connecting its various levels. The Duergar of Drikhargunin are notably more tolerant than many of their kin, allowing some human slavers and traders to reside in the city. In 1480, the Duergar residents created a rune magic ritual that contaminated the River of Gold, the dwarven god Moradin's tangible link to Toril, which caused the Stone Plague. The Stone Plague emerged as a disease affecting dwarves in the East Rift region of Faerun in the year of Deepwater Drifting, 1480. Initially, it was feared that the disease was transmitted from person to person. However, it was eventually discovered that the plague spread through contact with cursed gold. It became clear to the dwarves that the Duergar of Drikhargunin employed powerful earth magic to inscribe a rune inside a giant geode near their city. Their aim was to poison Moradin and bring about the death of the god. Some unethical dwarves stole a powerful rune from Drikhargunin that allowed teleportation to the River of Gold. They mined cursed gold from the river, which eventually circulated in the East Rift region, causing many dwarves to become infected. Dwarven clerics were unable to stop the plague spread, and the clerics of the Temple of the Lady of Mercy in Hammergate might have exacerbated the situation by accepting offerings of gold in their ritual cleansing pool. The plague was halted when Tauren Ironstar, a dwarven ally, used a Duergar rune to teleport to Drikhargunin. With assistance from a small group of elite dwarven troops, Tauren managed to destroy the rune magic, although it cost him his life. Dwarves affected by the Stone Plague developed hard, crusty skin resembling dried mud or clay, and their eyes often calcified, which led to blindness. Victims typically emitted a scent reminiscent of wet clay. The disease is known to have a 100% mortality rate. Fras is a Duergar city located deep beneath the Sunrise Mountains in eastern Rashomon. Originally located in a vault under Thay, the city was nearly destroyed by earthquakes caused by the Spell Plague, prompting the Duergar to relocate. The city remains relatively isolated and does not face significant threats from rival cities. Frost Sumdeen, also known as Steeder, is a small Duergar kingdom located underground near the Fire Peaks in the Horde Lands as of 1375. Exiles from Frost Sumdeen often find refuge in the nearby Dwarven Kingdom of Siramun due to their expertise in breeding creatures of the Underdark. Mantol Dareth is a trading city located in an underground cavern in the Underdark. Its exact location is known only to a few. Positioned on the shores of Dark Lake, it lies across from the Duergar city of Gracklstugh. The closest Drow settlements are Menzo Barazan, and before its destruction, Shed Nasab. The city is situated in a large, single-twisted cavern and is heavily guarded and protected by strong magic. The cavern naturally formed by water due to its proximity to the Dark Lake. It is filled with waterfalls, pools, and streams. Its walls are adorned with multicolored crystals and gems, and bridges across the streams are carved from the crystal. The city mainly consists of trade caravans and campsites. The city hosts small groups of merchants from various races, including Drow, Illithid, Deep Gnome, and Duergar. Bugbear mercenaries are also frequently seen. The central market is surrounded by giant fungi, under which merchants set up stalls selling fruit, perfume, woods, and spices. The nameless inn of the town is run by a Duergar woman named Dinika, who keeps goblin slaves. The inn serves mushroom ale and surface lagers, with rooms located in crevices behind petrified mushroom doors. There are 4 large storage areas at each corner of the cavern, representing the 4 factions present in the city. Carland Drar is a realm of dwarves in eastern Faerun, home to the Carshield, Morend, and Tulsar clans. Located beneath the God's Watch Mountains near eastern Semfar, the underground realm consists of the Carshield Gold Dwarves, Morend Grey Dwarves, and Tulsar Shield Dwarves, who live and work together harmoniously. The Morend Dwarves particularly dislike the term Duergar and never identify as such. The inhabitants of the city enjoy a lifestyle renowned for its luxury, attributed to their trade, high-quality metalworking products, and the clever, labor-saving mechanical devices they design and build. The city maintains good relations with the surface, adopting the best aspects of surface culture. They utilize magical items, wizards, and adventurers from the surface when necessary. They have efficiently repelled several Illithid invasions and were known to be preparing for potential Drow hostilities. The realm mines large deposits of iron using efficient techniques. They craft excellent weapons, armor, tools, and mechanical devices for both domestic use and export. The mining activities also create new underground spaces, which are then structurally reinforced and converted into fungus farms, which feed the growing community. Tradesport is a walled island fortress turned city situated in the cold waters of the Sea of Endless Darkness and the Underdark beneath the Vast. The city consists of several districts, multiple docks, 2 harbors, and channels that cut through the settlement. Under the rule of the Mistress, canals were constructed through Tradesport to allow aboleths free movement within the city. It is rumored that tunnels and caverns beneath Tradesport are filled with aboleths and their treasures. The 2 harbors host a variety of ships from across the Sea of Endless Darkness, including Illithid vessels. Each harbor gate opens into large octagonal courtyards illuminated by oil lamps and surrounded by 2- and 3-story buildings, warehouses, and living quarters. These courtyards are separated from the rest of Tradesport by iron portcullis gates, which open into underground passages leading guests into the city. The Illithid complex is located next to the human Wakinar district, where the Maelstrom Casino is found. As of the 14th century, Tradesport operates as a capitalist dictatorship, with absolute power held by Mistress Kristen of Sigil. Her decrees are enforced by her own mercenaries guild, and criminals are sent to the city arena. Tradesport is renowned for having the best brothels in the Underdark, with slavery being the town's primary source of income. Commerce is controlled by several powerful trading houses. The city's Duergar produce high-quality weapons, which are exported throughout Faerun. In the late 14th century, the Church of Malfagor established a presence in Tradesport, fostering a lucrative trade in undead servants with Thay. The Drow inhabitants of Tradesport worship Faerun, while humans follow Joaquin. The Mulhorandi worshippers of Set have faded into antiquity. The latest deity to gain worship in Tradesport is Malfagor, whose veneration began with some trading houses using undead laborers and a subsequent undead invasion, which was quelled by the newly arrived priests of Malfagor. Tradesport's history begins with the Mulhorandi pantheon's expansion into Toril. The god Set focused on the Underdark, where his servants constructed a keep on the island of the Sea of Endless Darkness. Over time, Set's fortress was abandoned, leaving only undead guardians to roam its halls for many centuries. Around the year of the Hoary Host, 1172, a Drow merchant from Nihon Fandar discovered the long-abandoned fortress while fleeing from the Kuatoa. After returning to his city, the merchant sold the keep's location to the cult of Vaerun. Vaerunian clerics used divine magic to remove the ancient undead guardians and claim the walled island as their secret outpost. For the next 50 years, the cult of Vaerun held power, expanding and building out the keep to serve as their base. From there, they conducted raids and attacks across the Underdark regions connected to the Sea of Endless Darkness. The Drow forged a treaty with an aboleth in the sea, offering its slaves in exchange for protection against attacks on their ships. They also allied with merchants who worshipped Joaquin, securing a supply of food and materials for their fortress. As the cult's size and influence grew, its existence came to be known to the enemy Lolthite clergy, who saw the cult as an affront to the Spider Queen. Each of Nichan Clondar's drow houses bid for the rights to attack and pillage the cult, and after a fierce bidding war, the first house emerged victorious. However, the cult of Beirund, having spies in the city, was warned of the impending attack. Knowing they couldn't withstand the forces of the first house, the cult decided to have one more big blowout before abandoning the island. It partied and gambled in Sigil, the planar metropolis of the Lady of Pain. Some cultists, while in one of Sigil's brothels owned by Mistress Kristen, shared their woes. The mistress offered her protection, but at a high price, which the Beirunians accepted. The siege of the fortress island lasted 9 years, ending one day shy of the anniversary. The prolonged conflict led to the destruction of the first house by the city's other 7 drow houses, as the Council of 8 decreed punishment for the shame brought upon the city by the prolonged and failed war. The island, now decreed off-limits to all drow, eventually came under the control of Mistress Kristen, who named the fortress town Tradesport. As of the late 14th century, Mistress Kristen's Tradesport welcomes all visitors as long as they can pay the entrance fee. Shortly before this period, Tradesport faced an undead incursion. Several of the city's trading houses had been using undead workers who rebelled when an ancient hidden crypt, part of the old Temple of Set, opened and released its undead guardians into the city. The undead began slaughtering everyone in their path, and it was only with the arrival of Malfagor's priests that the undead were pacified and brought back under control. The priests of Malfagor demanded a section of the city as payment for their services, and since then, their followers have become an integral part of the city's commerce, trading in undead servants. The undead incursion left a portion of the city in ruins, creating a space for another trading house. However, as of the Year of Wild Magic, 1372, no proposals for a new trading house had been submitted for Mistress Kristen's consideration. Drow are the largest racial group in Tradesport, supplying a significant number of drow slaves to the city's commerce. These slaves are primarily males from Nichan Thandar, tricked by corrupt merchants who promised to smuggle them out of the dangerous Lolthite city. Humans form the second largest group, having their own district mainly run by followers of Joaquin, who offer various services to the rest of the city. The third largest group are the Duergar. Most of the city's crafting is done by the Grey Dwarves, who also create the city's enchanted forges that require no fuel. Despite their tumultuous history with the city's drow, any conflicts are swiftly handled by Mistress Kristen's mercenaries, often resulting in battles to the death in the arena to prevent further hostilities. Other inhabitants include Illithids, Aboleths, and the occasional halfling. Many of the living residents oppose the presence of Malfagor's clergy and their undead servants, but Mistress Kristen seems to remain indifferent to these concerns. The War of Gold and Gloom was an ongoing conflict between the Gold Dwarves from the Great Rift and the Grey Dwarves from the Underspires over the lost Shield Dwarf kingdoms of Deep Shanatar. The conflict started when the Gold Dwarves of the Great Rift deployed the Army of Gold into the caverns of Tark Shanat. In response, the Duergar of the Underspires sent the Army of Steel to Shanatar around 1369 to halt the dwarves' expansion. By 1372, battles between the Army of Steel and the Army of Gold were ongoing. In 1383, the War of Gold and Gloom ended unexpectedly in the deserted halls of Barakuir. During the clashes, the Crusaders of the Great Rift found a set of ancient runestones that revealed the betrayal of the clan Duergar by the Illithid of Orendal. The discovery prompted the Illithids to unleash a horde of thralls on the warring armies. The thrall army was destroyed, resulting in significant casualties on both sides, with most of the Duergar and half of the Gold Dwarves killed. This incident united the remaining forces of the Gold Dwarves and Duergar against the Illithids of Orendal. The combined force then advanced west into Old Shanatar to reclaim a lost bastion of Deep Shanatar, which they planned to use as a base against a potential Illithid invasion. Gracklstugh, also known as the City of Blades, is a Duergar settlement on the shores of the Dark Lake within the Northdark. It is located beneath the Desserin River Valley in the Evermoors, as well as the Uthgard Ancestor Mount of Flintrock. It sits across the Dark Lake from Menzo Barazan. Accessing Gracklstugh is feasible through various routes: caves within the Sword Mountains, tunnels extending from Beldabar's Rest and Yartar, passages originating from Luskan and Mithril Hall, and a primary trade route leading from Skullport through the Labyrinth. The city itself is a cavernous expanse sloping downward on its eastern flank, merging with the Dark Lake to form a subterranean port. Illuminated by the fiery glow of smelters and foundries nestled amidst stalagmites, Gracklstugh resounds with the clamor of industry, the crackle of flames, the hiss of steam, and the clang of iron. The pervasive smog cloaking the cavern often leads to a lingering and occasional fatal respiratory ailment known as Gracklstugh. Laudagro's Furrow, also referred to as the Cleft, bisects the city from north to south, with bridges linking the upper city to the lakeside districts. Access to the western side is restricted from foreigners. The city was founded in negative 3717 by Duergar, fleeing the collapse of Deep Shanatar and the subsequent enslavement of many of the Grey Dwarves in Orendal. In negative 3392, King Horgar Steelshadow II commenced the unification of the Duergar clans in and around Gracklstugh, forming the Deep Kingdom. However, in recent centuries, the Deep Kingdom has gradually contracted its influence to encompass only the city itself and its immediate surroundings. The might of the Deep Kingdom began to wane during the Deep Bear battles against the Quaggoths from approximately negative 1803 to negative 1350. Around the 14th century, King Tarngard Steelshadow fell under the influence of the Council of Savants. Upon his demise, Horgar IV ascended to the throne, but recognized the threat posed by the Council. He devised plans to either eliminate or expel all Darrow from Gracklstugh. In 1372, he exploited the silence of Lolth and the vulnerability of Lolth's followers as a pretext to launch an assault on the Drow city of Menzoberranzan, solidifying his authority over all of his lieutenants. He forged an alliance with Nimor Imphrasil of the Jazr Chalson to advance his ambitions. Encouraged by Nimor, Horgar led his army to victory against the Drow forces at the Pillars of Woe, securing additional support from allies such as the Scourge Legion of Conir Vok and the treacherous Drow House of Ardok Dir, who were also in league with Jazr Chalson. Known as the Siege of Menzoberranzan, the combined forces then laid siege to the Drow city, maintaining a blockade for several months. In 1373, the silence of Lolth came to an end, and Lolth's priestesses regained their divine powers. Subsequently, Conir Vok recalled his troops to the Hellgate Keep, leaving the remaining Duergar vulnerable to defeat and expulsion, forcing them to end the siege. As the Duergar forces retreated, Nimor seized the opportunity and assassinated Horgar Steelshadow IV. Following Horgar's demise, Horgar Steelshadow V ascended the throne. The city of Gracklstugh, also the Deep Kingdom, primarily houses Duergar inhabitants, although there exists a notable minority comprising Darrow residents, along with the presence of Durzagon, Orogs, and Stone Giants. Approximately one-third of the city's total populace is slaves, including goblins, shield dwarves, orcs, deep gnomes, and humans. Gracklstugh welcomes numerous visiting merchants, particularly Drow, Duergar, and Kuatoa traders. Foreign visitors are required to obtain writs of passage to navigate beyond the Docks District and traverse the city's territories. Clan Musgard facilitates access through the black market, issuing writs of passage for a fee of around 200 gold per person as of around the 14th century. The city's aristocracy is well structured into clans, with their leaders titled as lairds. Authority within the city is distributed among the prominent clans, especially the merchant factions, the ruling monarch, referred to as the Deep King, and the Darrow Savants of the city. Key entities holding sway include the Council of Lairds, the Darrow Council of Savants, Clan Cairngorn, the dominant Stone Giant clan, and the Merchant Council. Gracklstugh boasts one of the most formidable armies in the Underdark, despite the absence of arcane or divine spellcasters among the Duergar ranks. Military service is mandatory for adult males, although many females also undergo training. The city is renowned for its production of metal armor, arrowheads, fish, blocks, mining equipment, smithing tools, and various other implements. In 1372, the army that marched against Menzoberranzan comprised over 5,000 Duergar, organized into more than 8 companies, supplemented by orc and ogre slaves. The Stone Guards serve as the king's elite bodyguards and clandestine operatives, numbering close to 500 seasoned Duergar soldiers. Clad in black plate mail and armed with battle axes and shields, they wield serrated swords, known as the King's Blades. Their high ranks are distinguished by strips of gold filigree which adorn their helms. The city's clan lairds can rally additional forces as required. Dark Hafts function as the Deep King's covert psionic agents, often accompanying Duergar merchants as overseers and spies. Their Steeder riders are known as Cavalrachni, with Clan Zundam forming the bulk of their ranks. Zarorn specializes in wielding flame lances, predominantly comprised of members from Clan Zardalar. Clan Cairngorn is a group of 50 stone giants residing in the city. Although not officially part of the military, they stand ready to defend the city against any threats. The city generally maintained favorable trading ties with Menzoberranzan, Mantul Dareth, Skullport, Shamath, and Oltul, although these relationships can become strained during times of conflict. Clan Musgard is a prominent merchant clan specialized in the production and trade of ales and liquors. Duergar are typically serious and reserved, displaying little friendliness towards non-Duergar inhabitants, despite the presence of many such individuals within the city. While they can appear ruthless and disdainful to outsiders, their interactions are often driven by pragmatism rather than outright hostility. They are more inclined towards exploiting others for their own benefit, such as through enslavement, rather than resorting to outright violence. The Duergar hold a strong belief in the value of hard work and tend to prioritize the attainment of success and status through labor rather than through schemes against their rivals. Food in Gracklstugh includes roth roasts, red wine, smoked roth cheese, and black spore flour bread. Duergar's Furrow is a substantial rift running through the city, effectively bisecting it along a north-south axis. Carved dwellings line the walls of the rift, with the eastern section housing the Darrow Quarter. 12 stone bridges span the chasm, connecting the North Furrow District and the South Furrow District. The North Furrow District encompasses the Dark Lake area, along with the residents of clans specializing in crafts and commercial goods. The district is the area where outsiders are permitted to reside, with the Dark Lake Docks situated at its northernmost section. South of Duergar's Furrow is the South Furrow District, home of the city's more prestigious clans. This area hosts notable landmarks, such as the lair of the Red Dragon Emberchild, Cairngorm Cavern, and the hold of the Deep King. Unauthorized access by non-natives is strictly prohibited in the South Furrow District. Cairngorm Cavern is a remote district somewhat secluded from the main cavern, serving as the residence of the Stone Giants. The Dark Lake District, situated along the northern shore of the Dark Lake, comprises the docks and is considered the poorest and most perilous area of the city due to its disuse. The Business District is teeming with artisans and merchants housed within cramped field storehouses. One of the notable landmarks in the city is the Blade Bazaar, serving as the town square and a marketplace near the Dark Lake. Surrounding low buildings accommodate weaponsmiths, making it a hub for trading armor and weaponry. The Palace of Gracklstugh features a large gate devoid of any adornments. The guards, known as the Stone Guards, maintain a discreet presence while on duty. Within the palace, there is a waiting suite furnished with modest and practical amenities, along with a small, slit-like window offering views over the city. A sizable portcullis and a grand staircase leads to an expansive throne room. Themberchaud's lair, the domain of the Wormsmith of Gracklstugh, occupies a spacious side cavern in the southern section of the city. Among the city's establishments is the Cold Foundry, an inn resembling a fortress located a short distance from the wharves. Its signage is in both Undercommon and Dwarvish. The inn comprises a walled enclosure housing standalone blockhouses containing guest rooms, with a pen outside the front gate for pack lizards. Additionally, there is a separate building available for rent, featuring 8 rooms across 2 floors suitable for drow-sized humanoids. The Shattered Spire is a rustic tavern situated atop a fractured stalagmite emerging from the Dark Lake, connected to the mainland by a rope bridge. Another establishment, the Goldborn's Lair, offers basic accommodations in the docks district beneath the Blade Bazaar. Despite its modest quality, it's considered a safe lodging option. Themberchaud, known as the Wormsmith of Gracklstugh, allied himself with the Duergar of the city in Northdark of the Underdark around the 14th and 15th centuries. His titles include the Father of Flame, the Ever-Burning, and the Foundry's Heart. In his role as the Wormsmith, Themberchaud employed his fire breath to heat the city's forges and temper the renowned steel blades crafted by the Grey Dwarves. He regularly traversed the city and is compensated with treasure from the dwarves, which augments his hoard. The Keepers of the Flame, a monastic order of psionic Duergar priests, attend to Themberchaud's needs, following the terms of an agreement made between the dragon and the House Steel Shadow. They protect his hoard and ensure his satisfaction, indulging him with disobedient slaves from the city. Themberchaud's pride and vanity is characteristic of many red dragons, and he expects unwavering obedience. Dissenters face his fiery wrath, while those who comply contribute to his growing discontent despite the lavish care provided by the keepers. Themberchaud is massive even by dragon standards, and appears visibly overweight, with scales as red as lava and bright yellow eyes. By the late 1490s, he struggles to move. Unable to fly, he can only hop and flap his wings helplessly. Instead of producing flame, sometimes he belches flammable gas. Despite his physical limitations, he does speak in a booming voice. He resided in a side cavern branching off from the southern wall of Gracklstugh's main cavern, concealed from visitors. Perched atop his treasure hoard, he forbade anyone from approaching him or his riches, incinerating any who dared to do so. Born within his chamber in Gracklstugh, Themberchaud is a descendant of previous wormsmiths and was tasked with lighting the city's forges from a young age. As he grew, he became too large to leave the city, forever bound to his domain. At some point, he acquired a red dragon egg, although it remains uncertain whether it was from his own lineage or obtained through conquest as part of his treasure hoard. However, the Grey Ghost Thieves Guild, led by Zumsap Salt Baron, stole the egg. In response, the Keepers declared war on the Grey Ghosts, igniting hostilities and causing unrest in the city by 1373. By the late 1400s, Themberchaud grew stronger, restless, and dissatisfied with the limited gold and food supply. He became increasingly resistant to the Keepers' control and entertained thoughts of dominating the entire city. Aware that the Keepers were concealing information from him, he observed silently, biding his time before confronting them. While monitoring the city's affairs closely, he sought to recruit personal agents beyond the Keepers and scouted for capable mercenaries. Unbeknownst to the dragon, the Keepers also plotted to eliminate him before he grew too powerful and to replace him with a more compliant hatchling. However, the Grey Ghosts once again stole a red dragon egg intended for this purpose, diverting the Keepers' attention away as they renewed their conflict with the thieves. In response, the Keepers intensified security around the dragon's lair and explored alternative strategies. They hired skilled mercenaries within the city, but Themberchaud also attempted to recruit them for his own purposes, leading to confrontations with Gartkar Zindor, the leader of the Keepers, who interrogated the mercenaries about the dragon's intentions. Although they may have recovered a red dragon egg, its ultimate fate remains uncertain. Should Themberchaud acquire it, he would likely destroy it to maintain his dominance. Around 1490, an adventurer and member of the Order of the Burning Dawn arrived in Gracklstugh in search of the legendary Moon Tear, a relic of Sehen Mundo. However, they discovered that a mind flayer had seized control of the city amidst the madness of the Deep King Horgar Steel Shadow V. The Illithid had even managed to infiltrate Themberchaud's mind. The Order defeated the Illithid, liberating both the king and the dragon. In gratitude, Themberchaud spared the adventurers' lives, a gesture of immense significance coming from a powerful dragon. Although believed to be confined to Gracklstugh, by the late 1490s, Themberchaud has managed to escape and appears in the distant ruins of the gnome city of Dolblunde. Some speculate that he must have found a new lair. He was seen to intervene without a word when a group of adventurers were beset by undead Thayan assassins. He swiftly dispatched the undead assailants by devouring them and slid down a heap of bones, then turned his attention to the living adversaries, pursuing them through the ruins and unleashing his fire when able. During the chaotic pursuit, Themberchaud's inability to fly upward let him topple one of the bridges, causing one of the adventurers to slide perilously towards his jaws. His companion leapt into action, driving his sword into Themberchaud's head, temporarily halting the dragon's advance. Regaining his composure, Themberchaud pursued the group into a narrow cave but was unable to pass through. The resulting damage caused seawater to seep in. Ultimately, the adventurers devised a successful plan. They coordinated to goad the dragon into producing more flammable gas while they took cover underwater. They then ignited the gas, causing an explosion that created a water channel, freeing the adventurers and giving Themberchaud an unexpected bath. Dalene Duerna was the Duergar Laird of Zortaga in the late 1480s. She became the ruling Laird 50 years earlier by murdering her father. In the late 1480s, her consort was captured by the fire giants of Merindra. She led a raid to rescue him but failed. However, Dalene managed to steal many treasures from fled Hellspawn's lair, including a samovar designed to look like a Merilith. Drinking from it, she was possessed by a demon lord-induced madness, which quickly spread throughout the city. Dalene stayed in her throne room, aided by the succubus Ashroot, until an adventuring party arrived in Zortagra to investigate the deranged Duergar. The adventurers managed to stop the spread of madness by removing the samovar. Under the influence of the demon lord's madness, Dalene believed herself to be the reincarnation of Deep Dwera, and feared an impending war with mind flayers. Durzagons are the half-fiend offspring of devils in Duergar. They are slightly taller and leaner than the average Duergar. Typically bald, they have wiry gray beards with red streaks and rust-colored skin that emits noticeable heat. Their claws are razor-sharp, and their teeth are strong enough to pierce skin. Not every Durzagon knows about their infernal heritage, as devils usually keep their true identity hidden from the Duergar partners. Those who learn about their origins typically keep this knowledge secret from both enemies and allies. Durzagons have the natural abilities of Duergar, along with magical powers from their fiendish heritage. They can create darkness, enlarge themselves, and become invisible. Their beards have quills containing sulfuric poison that weakens their enemies. They cannot be resurrected by normal means. While they usually cast spells from behind their Duergar bodyguards, they relish melee combat, and when physically engaged with an opponent, they fight fearlessly to the death. They are often revered by their Batazu peers as strong leaders, and their births are often celebrated in the Nine Hells. They are almost always found ruling their respective societies, and larger Duergar cities can have several Durzagons within them. Despite being fiends, most of them still worship Barakuir. They were among the forces of the Duergar city of Gracklstugh during the Duergar siege of Menzoberranzan, which occurred in 1372. While most Duergar lead fairly monotonous and isolated lives, certain documented encounters with individuals can provide some insight into the variety of their behaviors. The Godfather is the fabled head of the Duergar clan in Gracklstugh. It is uncertain whether he was a real person or a fictional character, but part of his tale was captured in The Daring Duergar from the book Fables of Faerun. One day, a young Duergar named Shul approached the Godfather, eager to enhance his psionic abilities. The Godfather instructed the ambitious youth to seek out the mind flayer known as Ear, who lived far from their home city. After some time, Shul returned to the Godfather with the power to obliterate a mind with a single command word. Intent on killing the Godfather and taking his power, Shul demonstrated his new ability and instantly blew up his own skull. The Godfather had completed his lesson to the young, disloyal Duergar. Ilyich was the leader of a Duergar clan enslaved by John Arenicus in his dungeon around 1369. He commanded the Duergar slaves in the dungeon beneath the city of Athkatla in Am. Under the service of John Arenicus, they worked in the dungeon smithy, crafting knives and tools for torture. The Duergar were in possession of the acorns belonging to the Fairy Queen of the Windspear Hills. These acorns were the only hope for the freedom of a group of dryads enslaved by the evil wizard. When a party of adventurers approached the smithy, Ilyich and his fellow Duergar launched an attack, resulting in his death. Orth Ironchisel was a Duergar warrior and brewmaster living in Waterdeep during the mid to late 14th century. He worked at the Angry Coxswain Tavern, situated in the central area of Waterdeep's dock ward, where Odd Street met Dock Street along the waterfront. Orth was also involved in the slave trade, collaborating closely with the tavern's owner, Ramas Shehepset. They used a one-way magical portal within the tavern to transport slaves to Skulk in Mulhorand. Morndon Gloomstorm was the High Cleric of Barakuir in Gracklstugh as of 1370. Born to Clan Bukbukin as the son of Kildor and a descendant of Baldur, Morndon grew up in Shimmergloom's run in Mithril Hall. He served under the rule of the Shadow Dragon Shimmergloom until the Shield Dwarves of Clan Battlehammer reclaimed their ancestral home. Morndon was one of the few surviving members of his clan who managed to escape to Gracklstugh, where he became the high priest of the local temple of Barakuir. Skella Iron Eye is a half-Duergar, half-Shield Dwarf prospector and a member of Clan Iron Eye in Undermountain as of 1490. Skella led the Duergar offensive on the 6th level of Undermountain. She is more lawful than the average Duergar, but would turn against anyone she suspected of treachery. She is deeply fascinated by artistry and beauty. Thardek was a Duergar fighter and slave of Baloth Baratil, a drow in Menzoberranzan. Thardek was a typically rude Duergar who harbored a deep hatred for surface dwellers. Thardek believed that escaping his Dark Elf master was impossible due to Baloth's mastery of the arcane arts and his genie slave, Najim, who was used to suppress any rebellions. He also sold light weapons. Kendar Horn was a criminal Duergar mage in Heliogabalus in the mid to late 14th century. He had a pale left eye that blinked repeatedly. His battle axe is inscribed with runes pledging allegiance to Adathor, and his clothes are adorned with glittering amulets. Kendar is known to be nervous and ill-tempered, considering himself both a mage and a skilled pickpocket. He is known to take more than his fair share from some of his crimes, and has a reputation as one of the city's most infamous killers. Gorblack is a Duergar guard in Gracklstugh as of the late 15th century. He is notorious for being one of the most corrupt members of the Stone Guards, and has a taste for collecting unusual weapons. Around 1486, he was stationed at the city's main gate. For a substantial bribe, he allowed a group of adventurers to escape drow slavers and enter the city. Hemeth is a Duergar arms dealer from Gracklstugh as of the late 15th century. Around 1486, he learned that the Kuatoa village of Slubluda had erupted into civil war. Seizing the opportunity, he traveled there to sell weapons to both sides. However, he was captured by Kuatoa cultists, who intended to sacrifice him to a new god named Lima Gugun, the Deep Father, who was actually the demon lord Demogorgon. The Empty Scabbard Killers are a legendary order of Duergar psionic assassins in Gracklstugh, often thought to be mythical by the common folk. They are one of the most feared groups in the Underdark, and practice disciplines unknown to even the most knowledgeable Darrow or wisest priests. Far from being a mere legend, These killers have been honing their craft for centuries, with their motives remaining a mystery and their methods elusive. Members typically include assassins and soul knives who can manifest a blade of psychic energy, hence the name Empty Scabbard. They patrol the streets of Gracklstugh, seeking psionically gifted children to abduct and train. They also recruit talented Castlebrack, Duergar outcasts shunned by their peers. They often carry out deadly missions for a select few prominent figures in the city, such as the Deep King. However, they are willing to work and kill for anyone willing to pay them gold. The headquarters of their organization is a closely guarded secret. However, those looking to hire them know they can make contact with one of the assassins at the Cave of 12 Teeth, located at the edge of the Dark Lake just outside Gracklstugh. It is speculated that their base is somewhere near the Dark Lake. By 1373, they had already gained notoriety and had recently started offering kidnapping services for ransom. Around 1374, they attempted to assassinate Erdal, the Aboleth ruler of the Kuatoa city of Dupapan. Their failure to assassinate him led Erdal to declare war on them, a conflict they are likely unprepared for. As of 1486, for unknown reasons, they targeted a merchant named Wyrmskull Throne. Deep King Horgar Steelshadow V is the current Duergar king of Gracklstugh and the Deep Kingdom as of the late 15th century. He is a shrewd and ruthless ruler. His approach involves holding secret meetings with all the city's councils to keep them uncertain about all his plans. He unexpectedly grants favors to keep his enemies guessing. He openly declares his willingness to use any means to maintain his hold on power. He employs assassins, such as the Empty Scabbard killers, through intermediaries to eliminate all potential threats. This tactic has kept the factions focused on external wars, preventing them from undermining their king. Horgar ascended to the throne in 1372. During his reign, his brother Voltagar was captured and held for ransom by the drow houses of Menzoberranzan. Horgar paid a substantial sum to free his brother, but subsequently declared them to be outcasts, banishing them from the city. In the late 1480s, he succumbed to a madness spread by demon lords. Shal, a succubus agent of Grazd in disguise, currently conceals his identity. Of the brutality that passes for civilization in the Underdark, the Duergar are not the most sophisticated or elegant, but they may be the most practical. Their industriousness, resourcefulness, and malevolence has enabled them to compete with the more established entities in an environment where power means the difference between taking slaves and being one. The lore master Mordenkainen once said, "Consider that the Duergar began as homeless outcasts, and today their fortresses are some of the most impregnable strongpoints in the Underdark. The question might not be if they will conquer the realm below, but when." In the merry month of Chess, from me home I started, left the girls of Glen, nearly broken-hearted, saluted father dear, kissed me darling mother, and drank a pint of beer, me grief and tears to smother, then off to reap the ore, leave where I was born, cut a stout blackthorn to banish ghost and goblin, brand new pair of brogues, rat to lower the bogs, frightened all the dogs, the rocky road to Shanatar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hunt the roke and turn her down the rocky road, and all the ways to Shanatar, whack Hlolarar. In Daggerford that night, rested limbs so weary, started by daylight, me spirits bright and early, took a drop of pure, kept me heart from sinking, that's a dwarven cure, whenever he's on drink, and see the lassie smile, laughing all the while, at me curious style, would set your heart to bubble, and asked if I was hired, wages I required, till I was nearly tired, the rocky road to Shanatar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hunt the roke and turn her down the rocky road, all the ways to Shanatar, whack Hlolarar. In Asgore next arrived, thought it'd be a pity to be soon deprived of view of that fine city. Then I took a stroll, all among the quality bundle it was stole. In a neat locality something crossed me mind, when I looked behind no bundle I could find. Upon me stick a wobble in searching for the rope, they said me dwarvish broke, wasn't much in vogue, the rocky road to Shanatar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hunt the roke and turn her down the rocky road, and all the ways to Shanatar, whack Hlolarar. From there I got away, me spirits never failin', landin' on the quay. Just as ship was sailin', captain at me roared, said that no room had he when I jumped aboard. A cabin found for dwarfy down among the pigs, played some hearty rigs, danced some hearty jigs, the water round me bubblin' off to high horn red. I wished meself was dead, or better far instead, the rocky road to Shanatar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hunt the roke and turn her down the rocky road, and all the ways to Shanatar, whack Hlolarar. The boys of Altarin, when we safely landed, called me self a fool. Could no longer stand it, blood began to boil. Temper I was losing, poor old Brightax Hall. They began abusing, hurrah me soul, says I. Shillelagh I let fly, some bloodstone boys were by, and saw I was a hollerin'. Then with loud hooray, they joined in the affray. We quickly cleared the way, the rocky road, the Shanatar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hunt the roke and turn her down the rocky road, and all the ways to Shanatar wax Hlolarar.